So non-designers, you would have met a lot of designers, and you'd have sort of, it's always very difficult when you go to a conference or a meeting or a presentation to try and sort of open the conversation. How do you open a conversation? And for some people it's very easy. I don't find it very easy. But for the others, there are lots of pages in Google that you can go through. But I think for the last 1 month or so, since 9th of November, it's become very easy. Anywhere that you go, there's only one thing that people want to talk about. Any guesses? Yeah, yes, no prizes for that. Sorry about this. Demonetization. Now let's sort of take the veil off this word. Things are not what they always appear to be. What you see is not necessarily what your client or your end user will see it as. What I believe in is not necessarily what you believe in. You talk to your driver or your maid. He has a completely different take on this word. And I have a different take on that word. And this is the problem when you design. Suppose now, with due apologies to architect, that's a wall. So if you're standing on the other side of the wall, you will see this word as something else, as gibberish probably. But if you're standing on this side, this is how you see this. And this is what the basis of design, a basis of human-centered design is all about. It's very important for you to understand the other person's point of view. And I saw some students there. What do you study? What kind of design do you study? Communication. Is there any interior designer or architect here? Okay, so students? Yeah, so when you do case studies, you usually go and see some new sort of office or you see a new building. But what you do not, at least when we study architecture, you see this nice building, but you never see the building in relation to the people who are going to use that or are using that. Eventually, the end user has an experience. He cannot not have an experience. As designers, it is important for us to ensure that he has a positive experience out of the design that you're doing. So, okay, one more question. What is design? A lot of words have been spoken about design. What is design? Let me see if this works. Any words? People sort of glamorize design, saying that it's about good-looking buildings, good-looking products. It's about colors. It's about aesthetics. It's all of that, yes. But what is most important is this, and this is a definition I like best, that it actually solves problems at a very basic level. Okay, next question. How many of you believe in astrology? Anyone? Why do you go to Astrologer? Why? Help me. Why do you go to Astrologer? Sorry? Better sense of the future, yes. So he tells you that you're going to get married. So even if you're married, you still like it, right? You feel good about it. Okay, he says that you're going to get a good job in the next sort of 2 years. You feel good about it. And if you don't like what he's saying, you sort of don't go back to him. Designers sketch. And sketching is, to me, something like astrology. You can visualize the future. And this is something which is very rare. The ability to actually conceive something which does not exist makes design positive. It's optimistic. And we've been doing this. When I was in school, like all good parents, my father wanted me to become a doctor or an engineer. I hated that sort of smell of formalin or whatever you call that in the biology classes. I never wanted to become that. And because I had won a few competitions in sketching, I thought I'm sort of qualified to become an architect. For the first 5 months or sort of first semester, I had no clue what I was doing in architecture college. And it took me nearly about a year or so for me to actually understand what architecture is all about. But unfortunately, even today, when you say that you're a designer, a lot of people think that it's about making sketches and you're sort of having lots of coffee with members, fancy members of the opposite sex into sort of long nights. Yes, we do sketches. How many of you still do sketches? Very encouraging. But this is not the only thing we do. Now, while we were doing this, for about 25 years, we've been actually designing now. And sketching is not the only thing. You do research, of course, you do design concepts, and then you prototype, you test it, and then you finally launch products. A group of people, I think somebody mentioned it started to call this design thinking. And we didn't realize that for 25 years we've actually been doing this design thinking. And I'll not get into that, but design thinking essentially is taking this toolkit to actually solve other bigger problems in society. It's a human-centered approach to innovation. What, again, is innovation? What is innovation? It's a process of translating an idea or invention into a good or service that creates value or for which customers will pay eventually. Now, we've been doing real estate consulting. Till about 2007 or so, the real estate market was doing really well. And people are investing, sort of private equity investors were investing into real estate on the basis of what I call the sort of like Excel sheet mode of investment. The numbers look good on paper, you sort of put in the money there. I mean, there was one case, there was this plot of land, somebody invested into the land, the project was launched, and then they realized that the cost of filling the land was equal to the cost of the land itself. And the whole revenue model went for a toss. And you know what happened in 2008? The market crashed, and then people realized that, okay, you also need to understand the feasibility, the product feasibility. So viability is no more good enough. You need to know if the project is actually going to work in terms of technical feasibility. But then, true innovation happens at the junction of viability, feasibility, and desirability. And this is very important to understand. Will the end user actually use your product? That's human-centered design. Okay, I'll explain through an example. What is this? Any guesses? One guess. I have a prize for this. Sorry? Toilet. Bingo. I'll meet you outside. So this is actually one of the toilets built under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in a remote place in India. It's a rural toilet. And people are, statistically, it's been a big success. You know, if you look at the numbers, it's very impressive, the number of toilets which have been built, especially in the rural areas. But a lot of people are actually using them as sort of storerooms and granaries. Any guesses why? Lack of space? Sorry? Cultural problem, yeah. So one is a cultural problem that, you know, you've been doing your thing outside the house all this while, and suddenly you cannot do your dirty thing inside the house. That's a cultural problem. Secondly, it's the strongest structure that I have in my house. So I'd rather use it to store my valuables. And there are more important valuables than my dirty thing to store in that thing. And thirdly, it's like, you know, with due apologies to Tata, it's like a Land Rover as against a Nano. How can I do my thing in this sort of shiny little thing suddenly? So this is about user acceptability. And I'm not saying it's a failure, that Swachh Bharat mission is a failure. It's just a beginning. We need to support that, Mitro. Okay, so just to recap, so design has led to design thinking, which is about, you know, a human-centered approach to innovation. What are the innovation killers? The first thing which I think is business myopia. What is business myopia? Of course, it's the inability to see beyond your sort of immediate surrounding. Those of you young guys, especially people who are born in the 90s, this is a mobile phone, by the way. Okay? This used to be the reigning mobile phone in the 90s, undisputed king. Nobody could even come close to them, especially in India. Nokia was the leader. They could not foresee that somebody would need to check your mails while you're hanging on a local train going from Bandra to Churchgate. Okay? Sorry, this came too early. So of course, BlackBerry sort of killed Nokia, and then when iPhone came, they sort of disappeared. So you need to be able to see what's coming. Sometimes you have a solution and then you're running around trying to find a problem. And this is what happens. Sometimes you sort of have a product, it's a little ahead of your time. Maybe Segway is an example. Brilliant product, business feasibility, but it's not used. I don't know what you think, but what Apple is thinking. It doesn't seem to be doing too much in the last sort of 7, 8 years. The second thing is innovation killer is monkey mind. What is monkey mind? The first guy saw an opportunity there, he jumped. He probably saw a fruit. The second guy jumped. There's a slim chance that he's going to catch on to the branch. But the third guy, he probably has no clue where he's jumping. He has no idea where he's going to land. And this is the problem of sort of following somebody blindly. Either you're following a business house blindly, or you're following your boss. The boss is always right mentality. And some designers, especially very senior designers, have this problem as well. That's the expert opinion, what I believe is right. And so in a group discussion, and group discussions are dangerous, the loudest voice always wins. The boss is not always right. Somebody very famously said, never fear to question the rich and the powerful. Is this a good example? Was the boss right? And the last sort of innovation killer is psychological inertia. You're happy, you're in a leadership position. You're sort of fighting your regular competition, and you're doing a very good job of it. You still stay on top. And then suddenly you realize that you've been fighting with sort of automobile companies. Along comes this guy who does not own even a vehicle, or has never manufactured a vehicle. Competition today could come from anywhere. I mean, if you're an architect, today I think there's a talk by IKEA later on. Your competition could come from IKEA tomorrow. If you're building homes, today in Scandinavian countries, they're actually sort of Lego blocking houses on laptops and printing 3D models of houses, and people are living there. So competition does not necessarily come from your conventional set of competitors. So business myopia, I think, is important to what we say. Look differently. We call it probe. If you have a monkey mind, please think differently. Ponder. Think a little. And if there's a psychological inertia, make differently. We call this the probe, ponder, prove method, or the 3P method. Okay. What is 1/2 of 13? I need this answer from non-designers. 1/2 of 13. Come on, it's easy. Sorry? 1? Okay. Good answer. 6.5? Any more? Sorry? 12. Yeah, okay, 12, yes, yeah. So I love this. I never go beyond the first row usually when I run this in non-design conference. 6.5, of course. 1 and 3 is another answer. Third and teen is 4 and 4. What's this answer? 11 and 2. Brilliant. So look differently, think differently, and make differently, and I can see that you're doing that. So just to quickly tell you what probe is all about thinking differently. What is this guy doing? What's he doing? Empathizing, yeah. He's sort of showing solidarity for his wife. I presume that's his wife. Yeah, I mean, there's this famous Bollywood actor, I think, who had a son. So usually babies happen through love and solidarity, except in case of that actor who recently had a baby without love or a mother. But yeah, he's trying to sort of feel what she feels, and pregnancy is not easy. And this suit, in fact, is called an empathy suit. The word is empathy, that you're actually trying to be in the shoes of the other person. This is the most important thing, empathy, to feel what the other person is feeling. And how do you do this? Through personas, an archetype. And, I keep on saying this. There are lots of course, things. But when traditional research is done, and I think there was this famous movie, Munna Bhai as well, where they say, I'm not a number, Statistics, that you define sort of categories of clients that people who earn 10,000 to 20,000 rupees a month, live in this kind of a house, live in this geography, and so on and so on. People are not numbers, come on. They have feelings, they've got emotions. And enough has been spoken about why people do not buy products, but people buy into emotions. Now, this needs to be understood at the design level. Personas are not statistics, are not numbers. So we need to understand what people are thinking, doing, feeling in order to build empathy. And one of the things that we do not, we consult clients, of course, but we also sort of develop our own products. So one of the things is that you observe people. Now I'm observing you. So if I see somebody sort of dozing off, that's an observation. But if I go directly to you and say, how are you feeling? You're going to be very guarded. You're not going to answer me honestly. It's very difficult in traditional research when you go with the questionnaire and ask people, okay, what do you think about this product that you're going to launch? Somebody who has never seen the future cannot give you an honest answer about that. So the key is that you observe people, and there are techniques to do that. You, of course, do videography, you do photography. In some cases, we've also taken sort of feeds from security cameras to understand how people behave in office scenario or retail scenario. So observing people is important. The second is engagement. See, engage with people. So you not only observe, and then again, engagement is something where you need to sort of engage them with games. There are different ways to do that. You could give them copies of magazines and tell them, okay, you cut pictures from the magazine, what you feel you can relate to. And the most important thing in the end is that you need to immerse yourself in their lives. You need to feel what they're feeling, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So ICH, or Ideal Choice Homes, is a mass housing solution that we sort of conceptualized 5 years back. It was launched by the chairperson of the National Housing Bank 5 years back. We still haven't got this commercialized. It's going to be commercialized next year. And we've got other partners like Kiran Timberlake, Sam Circle Venture, and the Bakeri Group from Ahmedabad. So it's been 5 years of R&D. We've built sort of many prototypes. This is a picture of the final prototype in Ahmedabad. In one of the studies, we actually went to a remote village near Ahmedabad, and we stayed with a family. And what we noticed is, Gujarat gets very hot in the summers. So people, the men in the family, they were taking a bed out in the night to sleep in the open. The women and the children would actually sleep inside and would toss and turn throughout the night, unable to sleep. Now that's an observation which is only possible if you live there. Now, it's not that you do not know that. Obviously you know this. But when you're on the sort of drawing board, this does not come to your mind. You design according to what is written in the New First book or other, sort of standards which are available in the industry. This system is in sync with the sort of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And then we had this prototype ready. We went back to people and said, hey, look, now you can have your house in 2 days. So you can actually erect one floor. These are concrete homes in 2 days. And people said, hey, slow down. We do not need a house in 2 days. Give us a house in 9 months. We are okay. This is about 4 years back. Why? Any guesses why? People do not want quick solutions. Because this was, sorry? Quality, yes, yeah. But the thing was that these are concrete homes actually. So the people had actually come and knock, and it has to pass the knock test. Pakka ghar hai, chalo, theek hai. But there was another problem there. This was designed for people earning 15,000 to 20,000 rupees a month. They were not in the formal economy. So they said that for us to get a loan to collect the money, we will take at least 6 months. Now things, of course, have drastically changed after that. You had this Jan Dhan accounts being opened, and I'm sure since 9th of October, things will look even better for us now. So people had a problem with this. Then we took it to builders, developers, especially in the metro areas, and developers said complete no. Again, developers do not want quick solutions. Sorry if there's any developers sitting here, especially from metros, because the real estate model in cities is different. the cost of a house today in Andheri East, where we are sitting, the cost of construction is probably about 2 to 5% of the eventual cost of the end product. 95 to 97% goes into land and everything else. So, that's, okay, 55 minutes, I don't have that. So, this is otherwise what happens if you do not understand the customer. Ecosystem mapping, I think somebody spoke about ecosystem mapping. It's like this, and I'll not talk about this example. It is important to understand that when you're talking about a customer, he's not in isolation. There's an entire ecosystem around him. Now, I mean, if you take demonetization and you take Lakshman the man, he was actually Fred the frog earlier, before 9th November. But you know how he's hungry. It's lunchtime, he usually sends his driver out to get a burger. Driver has to stand in the queue to get money. The guy who's, sort of makes burger or vada pav is not able to make enough now because he has to spend 2 hours every morning to stand in the queue. So he's producing less. So you see now, if you had to introduce a product before 9th of November, your strategy then and your strategy today would be completely different. How one thing in that entire ecosystem, if you unplug that, what happens to the entire ecosystem? So it's very important to understand that your end user is not working in isolation. Data, and you've seen lots of data, viability reports, but data has to be actionable. And how do you so data, so the observation that you do at the probe stage, you essentially get insights from there. What is an insight? So somebody saw this, okay, steam comes off, and then the insight was that, so I'm watching you now, and if I see somebody sleeping, so the immediate jumping to a solution, like I think Shanu mentioned earlier, is that I shake you awake, wake up, good presentation going on. But my insight is that he's probably bored with what I'm saying. And then I'll work on that insight. I'll make my presentation a little more interesting. So what's the sort of insight on from this? So observations lead to insight leads to solution. Somebody saw this and this is what happened. I think Tejas spoke about this. Velcro was born like this, biomimicry. What is this? Yeah, okay, somebody was trying to invent Fevikwik in 1968, and this is what happened. Glue that does not stick. So I think Dr. Spencer was going around, correct me if I'm wrong, for about 5 years with a solution which had no problem. And then I think Art Fry saw it and then said, okay, hey, I can use it as a bookmark. And the yellow paper is available in the next room, and he just picked it up and used it, and today it's like a multi-billion-dollar business. So observations leading to insights, insights leading to opportunities. This is another project that we're working on, Powerhouse. Essentially, it says that the house generates more electricity than it consumes, and the extra electricity is actually paid back to the grid. There's a new net metering policy. So if you sell back to the grid, the government actually pays you money today, and that money offsets the cost of the mortgage that you'll pick up for buying the house. So when we were doing this, sorry about this. Yeah, so this powerhouse, which we were actually doing this prototype near Bombay, and then we were going to families, and then we're trying to understand what is the most important thing that people want to derive out of getting power in their house. What do you think? When you think solar power, somebody who does not have electricity in their house or never had, what would be the most important thing that he was looking for? Sorry? Sunlight, okay? Any other? So we went with the same presumption that if you have electricity suddenly, the most important thing for you would be light. And we were surprised. Light is important, but for them, charging the mobile phone was the most important thing. I want to be included. I want to be connected to the greater Indian society. Second was watching television. So they were more interested about watching television. They were feeling powerful by doing this. So do not think that what you see is the obvious thing. And then this eventually, of course, leads to ideation. Ideation happens in the space between you and me. What appears like a no to you may appear like a yes to some people. What appears like a 6 to you is a 9 to somebody. We do a lot of brainwriting. Brainstorming, the problem is that, people, sort of the loudest voice tends to win if you do not control that conversation. Brainwriting essentially pass on a piece of paper in a group like this, 4 or 5 people, and then you ask people, force people to give ideas, 3 ideas per person in 3 minutes, and you pass on that piece of paper, people work on those ideas, and in half an hour you suddenly have 100 ideas. And then you begin to eliminate ideas or work on them. So this is another technique which is being used a lot, prototyping. Now prototyping in service industry, a lot of role playing is done. And since I don't have time, you know what prototyping does, there's a lot of designers here. So, empathy, which leads us to insights leading to opportunities, new business ideas, and then we prototype. So finally, when you prove, you build a pilot. And the pilot, the difference with the pilot is that now it is in context. You're sort of testing the entire system. It is not only if your product is technically feasible, but you're actually trying to see if sales is working, marketing is working, after sales is working. And then you monitor that. So you keep on getting this feedback from people, and that's why in everything that you do, even in housing today, we're talking about version 1, we're talking about Chennai version, we're talking about the Ahmedabad version, because you keep on taking that feedback. We're monitoring our houses with these small sensors that we put in the houses. Why do you attend conferences? We also organize some conferences. Why have you come here? Okay, students, why have you come here? We thought, people go to conferences to meet others. It's very encouraging to see that I think about 20% of people here are non-designers. So we did this test on ourselves, and we realized that a lot of people go for the food. You have a conference in Goa and your company sponsors it, you land up there. You have something in Andheri East on a Friday evening. No, I have other things to do. We did this, and we're using this sort of insight to actually now design our next set of workshops. We do a lot of workshops in these kind of things. A lot of people, surprisingly, in conferences come from outside the domain to find out what's going on in design, and I can see that here. So being user-centric is, you basically talk with humans, you design for humans, and then you co-create solutions. So just to summarize, business myopia, you probe, ponder, and you prove. And value today is no more created in factories, but co-created. Do not be under the impression that, I'm sitting in this big fancy office, AC room. What I say is gospel truth. No, it has to be co-created. People talk to us and say, okay, write these things down. So we're actually sort of co-creating a book. This is not yet published. This is the first time we're showing this. It will be published in early 2017. If you're interested to co-create this book, please pick up a copy. Write what you feel, what I've said today is correct, not correct. We'll put your name there. We want to co-create a solution like this. Thank you so much.